Hey, has anybody got any silly putty? Whoa, thank you. Thank you very much. Big egg. Thought it was gonna be one of those little ones. Wow. You know you're getting old whenever you see an egg shape and you recognize it as either silly putty or a pair of pantyhose. Folks, tonight I am coming to you from simulated heaven. Okay, I have two items today I'm going to be reviewing. I've got silly putty right here, and then this is silly putty big egg. So this is different than regular old silly putty. It's in a big egg and there's a lot more of it. And I'm going to be comparing it to Braini Putti Luminite. And this is Braini Putti that glows in the dark. So we've got Braini Putti Luminite versus silly putty big egg. So these are two items that I use quite a bit. If you watch any of my videos, you know that I love silly putty type items because I use them at work a lot. Not to beat a dead horse, but I do tons and tons of training at work. When I'm sitting in class, the Braini Putti and the silly putties are two things that I can use that just help me to pass the time. I've noticed that a lot of people that I work with have this at their desk, and while they're on the phone, they are actually messing with this stuff while they're talking. So instead of like maybe the classic doodling or whatever, they're actually using Braini Putti or silly putty. And also, we know these are kind of made for kids, so kids love this stuff. Adults like this stuff. We're all big kids. We're gonna look at the silly putty big egg, and the reason I got big eggs is because the little small silly putty eggs don't have much in them. So I wanted to see how much, see what the contrast was on this. And I got the big egg, and then I've got the Braini Putti Luminite, which is the glow in the dark. We're gonna unbox both of these, look at them, and just look at the pros and cons of each one. There's gonna be certain things about Braini Putti that are probably gonna be better, and then there's gonna be things about the silly putty that are probably a little better. And we're gonna find out here real quick. So let me get these unboxed, and then we'll test them out and just see what kind of different things that they do or don't do. Since silly putty came out on the market first, we're gonna open the silly putty first. Okay, this has got some heavy-duty plastic on it. Okay, may use my teeth on this one. I don't know. Yeah, I think I will. Okay, got it. Alright, so this is the silly putty big egg I'm opening up right now. And you can see it's got the classic silly putty logo on the outside of it here. And this is a side open. And it's got a big old hunk of silly putty in there. Actually, that's a little bigger than I even expected it to be, even in the silly putty big egg. So let's get that out. Okay, oh, it came out real easy. It's not sticking to the innards of this miniature hamster coffin that it came in. Or actually, that wouldn't be a miniature hamster coffin, that would be a regular size hamster coffin, I'd say. Right off the bat, I can tell you that it's got a soft feel to it. And I think most of us have probably messed with some silly putty at some point in our life, and this has got the good old classic, feel of silly putty. I'd say this is equivalent to probably, I don't know, maybe it might be the equivalent to like 5 silly putties or more, maybe 6 silly putties. There's a lot of silly putty here, and this costs like $5.50, and then the Braini Putti I think was $4.99. And right now I've discovered off the bat that silly putty is a pretty good value in this big egg, because the little small version of silly putty, I think it normally runs about $1.50, and you've got like 6 of these right here. So, you're already saving a little bit of money if you buy the big egg. So anyway, we got this huge piece of silly putty here, and it's just, it's pretty much just like regular old silly putty. See how easy it forms into a ball here real quick. Okay, that was easy enough. Okay, so the Braini Putti has the normal little claims that it makes right here on the box. It says it snaps, stretches, melts, and bounces. And this one also says that it glows in the dark on here. It's the Luminate. And I've bought several different Braini Putties over the years, and I've never had the glow in the dark though, so I'm very curious about how well that works, how well it glows in the dark. So let's open this up. Got the Braini Putti liberated from its plastic, and now sometimes I've run into this where the Braini Putti will get kind of in the sill of the container, because it's been sitting sideways in the store for so long, and it takes a little bit of kind of slow moving to open it up. And this has kind of got like a slime-like appearance. And it looks like right now these all come with like a little plastic seal on the top, and it looks like this one's stuck to the lid. And I think that's part of what keeps it fresh whenever it's in transition. All right, so it's nice and green, kind of has a slime appearance, kind of like a jello, kind of clear. And I kind of was expecting this to be a little darker than this, but it's got kind of the classic Braini Putty feel to it. They're pretty good about that. I've noticed that most Braini Putties do have the classic, you know, just typical Braini Putty feel. They're a little bit softer than Silly Putty, so they're a little more malleable. So I don't know how much more fun they are to play with after you've had them in your hand for a while. I think even the Silly Putty, you know, softens up to some degree, and they get about the same consistency. But this one also claims to glow in the dark. So I'm going to take these into my kitchen and use them on the counter. That way we can test out the bounce with them. We'll see what the Braini Putty does opposed to the Silly Putty here real quick. Silly Putty bounces pretty good. I have to say that the Braini Putty Luminate wins the bounce test. It seems to bounce a little better than the Silly Putty. But the Silly Putty does have a good bounce to it. It's a little louder too, but it is bigger and heavier, so we kind of got to take that into consideration. Also wanted to warn anybody, if you're ever playing with two different putties like this at the same time, do not let them touch, because these will start to absorb into each other very quickly. I made the mistake of letting these get a little too close together, and they touched and they started to fuse. I had to pull them apart very quickly. So you want to be careful if you've got two of these together. Then again, maybe you want to merge them. Maybe that's something you want to test out yourself, but that's not something I want to test out. So anyway, just a little warning there. The Braini Putty makes the claim that it snaps. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make some air pockets here real quick. See if we can get it to snap. Not hearing any snaps yet, but I have faith. I've used Braini Putty before. There we go. Oh yeah. There we go. Oh yeah. So that snaps pretty good. The Silly Putty, I haven't seen any claims that it snaps, but we'll test it out to see if it does. Like I said, Silly Putty's a little bit stiffer than the Braini Putty, but we'll see if we can get it to snap. I know when I was a kid, I know I got this stuff to snap, and I don't know if it has to age or anything, but we'll see if we can get it to snap now. I heard it snap a little bit. Oh, yeah, it snaps. Well, that pops loud. So Silly Putty is popping. So Silly Putty's got some snap to it too. That's cool. Like I said, the Silly Putty's not as easy to manage. It's not as soft, but nonetheless, it's got its attributes. So they both passed the snap test. It says right here that Braini Putty stretches. So we see that to be true. Stretches out real good. All right, so let's see how well the Silly Putty stretches. All right, the Silly Putty stretches out just as good. Good old classic Silly Putty. They both passed the stretch test. So it says that Braini Putty melts, and that is true. The melting factor does take a little more time. It will proceed to drip down the sides here, especially when it's got like a heavy, especially when it's got heaviness on each side here. It'll start to drip down, and right now it is dripping. Like I said, it's pretty slow moving, but it is doing it right now. And I will speed up this. I'll stop talking so that I can speed this up. And it's melting. I'm having to go up higher. There it goes, it melts. Actually, I didn't even have to speed it up, so that's good. You actually can see it melt in real time. So let's test out the Silly Putty and see if we can get it to melt. And I can tell you the Silly Putty is melting. It is a little slower than the Braini Putti because it's not as soft, but it is melting. So the heaviness is stretching down. I'm not lowering my fingers, so you can see it's just continuing to dip down a little bit. And it is doing what the Braini Putti did. It keeps going out of sight. And eventually it is going to drip until it completely splits just like the Braini Putti did, so I'm gonna have to catch it here. It's happening right now, it looks like. Whoa. It's about to drip in half. There it goes. It never did split in half, but it stretched out, it melted that far, so, and you can see it melted over here on this side too. It's so flesh colored, it's crazy looking. So I'm gonna hold both of the putties up to the light, get them charged up. And I know I'm not fooling anybody. I know the Silly Putty's not gonna glow in the dark, but I'm just doing this to give it a fair chance. So now I'm gonna turn out the light and we're gonna see how well the Braini Putti glows in the dark. Well, shoot, it's glowing in the day right now. Oh wow, that's glowing like a moon rock. So the Braini Putti heavy duty glows in the dark. This stuff is amazing, wow. I love it. So this adds a cool factor of about 10 to this Braini Putti. So this is it in the dark. So you can stretch this stuff out in the dark and play with it. Awesome. And it looks like it's going to keep glowing for quite a while, so it's not really losing much of its glow factor quickly. So now obviously you can't see the Silly Putty that's here right beside it too well because it's not glowing in the dark. So we've got the Braini Putti, which is the Braini Putti Illuminate, glowing in the dark real well, and the Silly Putty doesn't glow in the dark. So we get a lot of cool points for the glow in the dark, and then obviously the Silly Putty doesn't get those cool points for that. And this Illuminate, I just can't get over how well it glows. Even in the daylight, it's glowing. Our final test is going to be the newspaper test for the Silly Putty and the Braini Putti Illuminate. So we tested out the Silly Putty Big Egg, and we also tested out the Braini Putti Glow in the Dark Illuminate. And I have to say that I like both of them. I've always loved Silly Putty, and the Braini Putti is something I discovered probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and I really love it too. Out of the two, I'm not going to really make a choice. I think they both do a pretty good job. Silly Putty's classic, it's the original, so you know, I think that's where everything kind of originated from when it comes to the putty market. So if it wasn't for Silly Putty, we probably wouldn't have Braini Putti. So that being said, I really enjoyed messing with both of them today. I had a good time messing with the Silly Putty and the Braini Putti Illuminate. And both of these I will use while I'm at work, when I'm watching trainings and stuff, keep my hands occupied. Also, I really liked the glow in the dark feature on the Illuminate. We have to say though, when it came to testing the functionality of both of these putties, the Braini Putti kind of wins because not only does it glow in the dark, but it also picks up pictures off a newspaper just like the classic Silly Putty does. So Braini Putti Illuminate gets an extra point for that. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please remember to subscribe to my channel so you can come back and watch some more of my reviews. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and God bless. Folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and you'll be able to come back for future videos. And remember, life is short, so if there's something you want in this life, always remember to never lose focus and follow your dreams. God bless, and until we meet again.